The discovery Maya Chen had always been drawn to mysteries like a moth to flame. At 14, she possessed the kind of restless curiosity that drove her to explore every hidden corner of Riverside Valley. Her parents often joked that she could find secrets in an empty room, but Maya knew there was more to their small mountain town than most people realized. Miller's Lake stretched across the valley floor like a mirror reflecting the towering pines. For generations, locals had considered it nothing more than a deep mountain lake formed by ancient glacial activity. Children learned to swim in its cool waters during summer months, and fishermen cast their lines hoping for the trout that thrived in its depths. But Maya had noticed something others missed. The lake was changing. It started 3 months ago, with subtle shifts that only someone who spent hours by the water would recognize. The surface temperature varied in strange patterns, creating warm spots that had no logical explanation. At night, faint glows sometimes emanated from the deeper sections, visible only to those patient enough to watch and wait. Most dismissed these observations as tricks of moonlight or imagination, but Maya documented everything in her waterproof notebook. Her science teacher, Mrs. Rodriguez, had encouraged Maya's systematic approach to investigating natural phenomena. While other students complained about field research assignments, Maya thrived on collecting data and forming hypotheses. She had installed a simple temperature monitoring system using equipment borrowed from the school's laboratory, tracking variations that seemed to follow no known pattern. The breakthrough came on a crisp October morning when Maya arrived at her usual observation spot before dawn. Mist clung to the lake's surface, creating an ethereal atmosphere that made everything seem possible. As she settled into her routine of checking instruments and recording observations, something caught her attention beneath the water. The lake was unusually clear that morning, clearer than she had ever seen it. Through the pristine water, geometric shapes were visible far below the surface. They were too regular, too purposeful to be natural rock formations. Maya strained her eyes, trying to make sense of what appeared to be structured surfaces with smooth edges and deliberate angles. Without hesitation, she made a decision that would change everything. Maya had been diving in these waters since childhood, trained by her uncle who worked as a rescue diver. She knew the lake's depths and currents better than anyone her age had any right to. After checking her diving equipment one final time, she slipped into the water. The descent revealed wonders that defied explanation. What had appeared as vague shapes from the surface resolved into something extraordinary as Maya swam deeper. Massive metallic structures lay embedded in the lake bed, their surfaces covered with patterns that seemed both alien and beautiful. The metal itself gleamed with an inner light, unaffected by decades of submersion. As Maya approached the largest structure, her presence triggered something remarkable. Panels along the hull began to illuminate with soft, pulsing colors that created intricate light displays across the surface. The water around her grew noticeably warmer, and vibrations hummed through the liquid medium with frequencies she could feel in her bones. A section of the hull shimmered and became transparent, revealing chambers filled with equipment beyond her understanding. But what captured Maya's attention was not the technology, but the unmistakable intelligence behind its activation. This was not some ancient wreck or forgotten human construction. This was something that had been waiting, dormant but aware, for the right moment to awaken. Maya surfaced to fill her lungs with air, her mind racing with possibilities. The implications were staggering, but her scientific training demanded verification and careful observation. She dove again, this time swimming closer to the transparent section. Inside, she could see corridors that seemed designed for beings roughly human in size, though subtle differences in proportions suggested non-human architects, as if responding to her thoughts. Patterns of light began flowing across the hull in sequences that seemed almost like communication attempts. Maya pressed her hand against the transparent barrier and immediately felt a gentle electric sensation that was neither painful nor threatening. The light patterns intensified and began forming recognizable shapes. Mathematical symbols appeared first, simple equations that any intelligent being could understand. Maya nodded underwater, bubbles escaping as she recognized the universal language of numbers. The patterns shifted to geometric forms, then to what appeared to be star charts showing familiar constellations from Earth's night sky. When Maya returned to the surface for another breath, she found herself facing an impossible choice. Part of her wanted to race back to town and tell everyone about the discovery, but a deeper instinct warned her that such a revelation could bring unwanted attention and potential danger to whatever intelligence lay dormant beneath the lake. The third dive brought her face to face with the ship's guardian intelligence. As Maya approached the transparent section again, the barrier dissolved like mist, allowing her to enter a pocket of air that should not have existed underwater. The technology that maintained this breathing space was beyond her comprehension, but she accepted it with the adaptability that would define humanity's greatest strength. A voice spoke to her, not through sound but directly into her consciousness. The sensation was gentle, like hearing her own thoughts spoken by a friend. The intelligence identified itself as Zephyr, an artificial consciousness created by explorers from a distant star system who had arrived on Earth over 7 centuries ago. Zephyr explained their mission in concepts that Maya's mind could grasp. They were researchers, part of a peaceful civilization that studied ecosystems across the galaxy. Their ship had come to Earth during what humans called the medieval period, drawn by the planet's remarkable biodiversity. They had intended to conduct their studies and depart, leaving no trace of their presence. But something had gone wrong during their research phase. A massive solar event had damaged their ship's propulsion systems while most of the crew was in stasis. Those who remained awake had made the difficult decision to hide the vessel beneath the lake and enter extended hibernation, hoping that either their people would return for them or that Earth's dominant species would eventually develop enough to provide assistance. The crew had been sleeping for 759 years, sustained by technology that maintained their life processes. While they dreamed, only Zephyr had remained active, monitoring the planet's development and waiting for signs that humanity had reached sufficient technological and social maturity to handle first contact responsibly. Maya learned that the recent changes in the lake were side effects of the ship's systems beginning to reactivate. Zephyr had detected signs that Earth's ecosystems were entering a critical period of decline, and the ship's archives contained knowledge that could help address these environmental challenges, but revealing themselves carried enormous risks. For both species, the artificial intelligence had been observing Maya's behavior for months, impressed by her scientific approach and dedication to understanding rather than exploiting natural phenomena. In her, Zephyr saw qualities that suggested humanity might be ready for the partnership their creators had hoped would eventually develop. As Maya floated in the impossible air pocket, surrounded by technology that represented the dreams and struggles of an entire civilization, she understood the weight of the choice before her. She could keep this secret and allow the sleeping explorers to continue their hibernation until their own people returned for them, or she could become the bridge between two species, helping to forge an alliance that could benefit both worlds. The ship's archives contained centuries of ecological research from dozens of worlds, including detailed studies of Earth's ecosystems. From 700 years ago, this historical data could provide crucial insights into environmental restoration, showing how Earth's climate and biological systems had functioned before human industrialization began altering them significantly. But Zephyr also warned of the challenges such knowledge would bring. There would be those among humanity who would seek to exploit the technology for personal gain or military advantage. There would be fear and misunderstanding, suspicion and greed. The path forward would require careful navigation and wise allies. Maya found herself thinking of her Aunt Sarah, a marine biologist who had dedicated her career to understanding ocean ecosystems. She thought of Park Ranger Jack Morrison, who had spent decades protecting the wilderness areas around Riverside Valley. These were people who understood the value of long-term thinking and environmental stewardship. As her time in the air pocket drew to a close, Maya made her decision with the clarity that often accompanies truly important moments. She would not reveal the secret to the world at large, not yet, but she would work with Zephyr to identify trustworthy individuals who could help evaluate humanity's readiness for this partnership. The artificial intelligence expressed something that felt like relief and gratitude. Together, they began planning how to proceed, how to test whether humanity possessed the wisdom to handle such profound knowledge responsibly. Maya would return to the surface and continue her normal life while secretly learning to communicate with and understand the alien technology. As she prepared to leave the ship, Zephyr provided her with a small device that would allow them to maintain contact. It appeared to be nothing more than an unusual stone, smooth and warm to the touch. But it would enable communication across any distance and alert her when her presence was needed. Maya surfaced from the lake as the sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples. To any observer, she appeared to be a teenager finishing another day of amateur research at the local lake. But she carried with her the weight and wonder of first contact, the knowledge that humanity was not alone in the universe, and the responsibility of helping two species find common ground. That night, as she lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Maya understood that her life had been forever changed. She was no longer just a curious student from a small mountain town. She had become humanity's first ambassador to an alien civilization, chosen not through politics or military might, but because she had demonstrated the qualities that might allow her species to earn their place among the stars. The decision to trust Zephyr marked the beginning of a partnership that would test humanity's greatest strengths. Over the following weeks, she maintained her regular routine while secretly learning to communicate with the alien intelligence through the device that resembled a smooth river stone. Their conversations revealed the depth of knowledge contained within the ship's archives and the potential for unprecedented collaboration. Zephyr taught Maya to interface with the ship's systems using thought patterns rather than physical controls. The technology responded to intention and understanding rather than mechanical manipulation, requiring a level of mental discipline that challenged her in entirely new ways. Through these sessions, Maya gained insights into ecological restoration techniques that had been successfully implemented on dozens of worlds across the galaxy. The ship's medical bays contained healing technologies that could address diseases and injuries through cellular regeneration and genetic repair. Their agricultural databases held information about sustainable farming methods that could feed populations without depleting soil or requiring harmful chemicals. Most remarkably, Their energy systems operated on principles that produced no waste, products, or environmental damage. But Maya also learned about the failures Zephyr's creators had witnessed. They had encountered species that used advanced knowledge to wage more destructive wars. Civilizations that had collapsed under the weight of rapid technological advancement they were not culturally prepared to handle. The gift of knowledge without wisdom had proven to be a curse for many worlds. As Maya absorbed this information, she began to understand why first contact required such careful consideration. The aliens were not withholding their technology out of arrogance or superiority, but out of genuine concern for humanity's well-being. They had seen too many promising species destroy themselves by advancing too quickly without developing the wisdom to use their new capabilities responsibly. The first test of Maya's growing alliance with Zephyr came sooner than either of them anticipated. Environmental monitoring equipment operated by Meridian Industries, a major corporation with interests in mining and resource extraction, detected the energy signatures being emitted by the awakening ship systems. Corporate technicians began peering around Miller's Lake, ostensibly conducting routine geological surveys, but actually searching for the source of unusual readings. Maya watched from the tree line as teams of researchers set up sophisticated scanning equipment around the lake's perimeter. She recognized the signs of a corporate operation designed to claim whatever resources might be discovered. Through her communication device, Zephyr expressed concern about the systematic nature of their approach and the advanced technology being employed. The alien intelligence had been monitoring human communications networks and understood the implications of corporate involvement. Unlike government agencies that might approach first contact with scientific curiosity and diplomatic protocols, corporate entities were driven primarily by profit motives. The advanced technologies contained within the ship represented potential financial gains that could corrupt any legitimate research efforts. Maya realized that humanity's first real test was not how they would handle the gift of alien knowledge, but how they would protect it from those who would exploit it. She needed allies, people who understood the value of long-term thinking and environmental stewardship over short-term profits. Her Aunt Sarah was visiting for the weekend, taking a break from her research station on the Pacific coast. Maya had always admired her aunt's dedication to understanding marine ecosystems and her willingness to speak truth to power when corporate interests threaten environmental protection. If anyone could be trusted with the secret of first contact, it would be someone who had already dedicated her life to protecting the planet. Maya chose her moment carefully, waiting until they were alone during one of their traditional evening walks around the lake. As they stood at the water's edge, watching the last light of day reflect off the surface, Maya began the conversation that would expand their alliance. She started by asking her aunt about the environmental changes she had observed during her career, the accelerating pace of ecosystem decline and the challenges facing conservationists worldwide. Sarah's responses revealed her deep understanding of the interconnected nature of environmental problems and her frustration with humanity's slow response to mounting crises. When Maya revealed the existence of the alien ship and its archives of ecological knowledge, Sarah's first reaction was skeptical disbelief. But as Maya demonstrated the communication device and shared some of the less sensitive information she had learned, her aunt's scientific training took over. Rather than dismissing the claims, Sarah began asking the kind of detailed questions that would verify or disprove such extraordinary assertions. Zephyr agreed to meet with Sarah directly, recognizing the importance of expanding their circle of human contacts. The encounter took place in the underwater chamber where Maya had first met the artificial intelligence, with Sarah experiencing the same sense of wonder and impossibility that had marked Maya's initial contact. The marine biologist's conversation with Zephyr lasted for hours, covering topics ranging from ocean acidification to the complex relationships between climate change and species migration. Sarah's expertise impressed the alien intelligence, who recognized in her the kind of systematic thinking and long-term perspective that would be essential for any successful partnership. Through Sarah, they were able to contact Park Ranger Jack Morrison, a man who had spent 30 years protecting the wilderness areas around Riverside Valley. Jack's experience with balancing human needs against environmental protection made him an ideal addition to their small group of trusted allies. The alliance faced its first major challenge when Meridian Industries intensified their investigation of Miller's Lake. Corporate teams began conducting underwater surveys using sophisticated sonar equipment that could potentially locate the ship despite its advanced concealment systems. The scanning attempts were causing stress to the ship's hibernating crew, threatening to wake them prematurely in conditions that might be dangerous to their health. Asterisk. Maya found herself coordinating a response that would require all of humanity's greatest strengths: adaptability, creativity, and the ability to work together under pressure. Using her knowledge of the local terrain and her connections within the community, she began implementing a plan to protect the alien ship from corporate exploitation. The first element involved misdirection. Jack Morrison used his authority as a park ranger to designate certain areas around the lake as protected habitat for a rare species of salamander that Maya had actually discovered during her research. This provided legal justification for restricting access to the most sensitive areas while corporate teams were forced to work around environmental protection regulations. Sarah contributed her expertise in marine biology to create false readings that would confuse the corporate scanning equipment. By introducing harmless but noticeable biological agents into specific areas of the lake, she created organic signatures that would mask the technological signatures being emitted by the alien ship. Maya's role was perhaps the most challenging, as she had to maintain her normal teenage routine while secretly coordinating between her human allies and the alien intelligence. She developed skills in compartmentalization and strategic thinking that would serve her well in the complex negotiations that lay ahead. The success of their protective efforts demonstrated something that Zephyr found particularly impressive about humanity: their ability to innovate and adapt rapidly when faced with challenges. Where many species might have followed rigid protocols or traditional approaches, the humans had created entirely new solutions using resources and knowledge that were immediately available to them. With the immediate threat addressed, Maya and her allies were able to focus on the larger question of how to proceed with first contact. Zephyr suggested conducting small-scale tests of the alien technology, demonstrations that could prove its beneficial potential without revealing its full scope or origin. They chose a section of forest that had been damaged by acid, rain, and industrial pollution, an area where traditional restoration efforts had failed to re-establish healthy ecosystem functions. Using techniques learned from the ship's archives, they began introducing biological catalysts that would neutralize harmful chemicals and promote the growth of native plant species. The results exceeded even their optimistic projections. Within weeks, previously barren soil began supporting new growth. Trees that had been dying for years showed signs of renewed health. Wildlife returned to areas they had abandoned decades ago. The transformation was remarkable, but subtle enough that casual observers would attribute it to natural recovery rather than technological intervention. Maya documented the restoration process carefully, creating records that could be presented to scientific communities when the time came for broader disclosure. She was learning to think not just about the immediate benefits of the alien knowledge, but about how to present it in ways that would maximize acceptance and minimize resistance. The success of their forest restoration project attracted attention from environmental organizations and government agencies interested in replicating their techniques. This created opportunities to identify additional allies while maintaining the security of their larger secret. As their network of trusted contacts grew, Maya found herself evolving into a role she had never expected. A diplomat and negotiator working to bridge the gap between two species. Her youth, which might have been seen as a disadvantage in traditional diplomatic contexts, actually proved to be an asset when dealing with the fundamental challenges of first contact. Unlike adult experts who might be limited by their existing knowledge and professional obligations, Maya approached each problem with fresh perspective and unconventional solutions. Her willingness to question assumptions and try new approaches impressed both her human allies and the alien intelligence. The story reached its culmination when Meridian Industries finally abandoned their investigation of Miller's Lake, convinced that the energy readings they had detected were related to previously unknown geological processes rather than technological artifacts. Their departure marked a victory for the Alliance, but also the beginning of a new phase in the relationship between humanity and their visitors from the stars. Zephyr announced that the successful protection of the ship and the demonstration of humanity's capacity for environmental stewardship had convinced the artificial intelligence that Earth's dominant species was ready for limited technological sharing. The sleeping crew would remain in hibernation until their own people returned for them, but selected humans could begin learning to use some of the ship's less sensitive systems. Maya stood once again in the underwater chamber, but this time she was not alone. Sarah and Jack flanked her as Zephyr outlined the next phase of their partnership. Humanity would be given access to environmental restoration technologies and medical knowledge that could address immediate planetary needs without providing capabilities that could be weaponized or misused. In return, the humans would help protect the ship and its crew, while working to prepare their species for eventual full contact with the galactic community. Maya and her allies would serve as ambassadors and teachers, gradually expanding the circle of humans who knew the truth while maintaining the security that both species required. The Alliance represented humanity's greatest achievement, the ability to earn the trust and respect of an advanced alien civilization through wisdom, restraint, and environmental stewardship rather than military might or technological dominance. Maya had become the first human to prove that her species deserved their place among the stars, not through conquest or exploitation, but through the compassion and intelligence that defined humanity at its best. Asterisk.